Russian Novatek's gas condensate plant in Ust-Luga port has halted operations after a Ukrainian drone strike on August 24. Sources of Reuters say that at least one, possibly two, of the plant's 3 processing units were hit and damaged by fire. Recall, on the night of August 24, long-range drones operating under the aegis of the Security Service of Ukraine and the Special Operations Forces struck the production facilities of the Ust-Luga port in the Leningrad region of the Russian Federation, according to sources in the security services. According to preliminary information, Ukrainian drones hit the gas processing complex of Novatek, the largest LNG producer in Russia. They emphasize that the strike hit precisely the cryogenic gas condensate/gas fractionation unit, the heart of the complex's technological processes. Through this terminal, Russia trades oil and gas using a shadow fleet. Drone sanctions from the SBU reduce the currency inflows Russia needs to wage war, an informed source said. According to sources, this is already the second successful drone attack on Ust-Luga this year. The first was in early January. If the events affect the volumes of supply and currency inflows, Russia may incur additional economic costs in the context of the war. The damage to the gas processing complex could affect the production and export of gas and condensate via the relevant supply routes, as well as currency flows for the aggressor country. Such actions increase the economic pressure on the Russian Federation in the context of the war and may entail additional costs and adjustments to export plans. Ust-Luga, about 112 kilometers west of St. Petersburg, is one of Russia's major commodity export hubs, handling everything from crude oil and LNG to fertilizer. Novatek, Russia's largest independent natural gas producer and leading liquefied natural gas company, operates one of its major terminals in Ust-Luga.
In the Sumy direction, Ukrainian forces have seized the initiative, moving from a defensive posture to a broad counter-offensive that is steadily reshaping the front line. The momentum shift is allowing Ukrainian units to dictate the pace of battle, breaking down Russian cohesion and allowing elite enemy forces to be encircled. Recently, Ukrainian forces started successfully advancing near Kindrativka, Andriivka, Oleksiivka, Yablonivka, Yunakivka. Euromaidan press media outlet recalls they have been supported by a series of airstrikes against Russian concentrations of forces and effective disruption of enemy reinforcement attempts, with the Russians trying to cross a local lake being targeted by drones. A Russian military analyst embedded with Russian forces in this sector reported that Russians are suffering from glaring issues with defensive cohesion. Fire coordination is ineffective against Ukrainian assaults. Requested reinforcements often never arrive. Counterattacks are delayed by several days. Ukrainian commanders are exploiting these weaknesses with precision, forcing Russians into a defensive posture they cannot maintain. Russia's operational mindset, long focused on continuous offensives, appears to have eroded its ability to mount an effective defense. In pursuit of gains during the summer offensive, Russian commanders committed vast reserves of armor and manpower, leaving little left to plug gaps when momentum stalled. The fighting in Kursk was particularly costly. Armored vehicles were destroyed in huge numbers, forcing Russia to rely on infantry, motorcycles, and small assault teams. Now in Sumy, most Russian soldiers move on foot, taking them days to reach the front line, and they can't respond effectively when Ukrainians attack, Euromaidan press says. Additionally, North Korean troops were annihilated by Ukrainian cluster munitions, 200 soldiers at a time, and the Russian infantry that remains is exhausted, making the Russian Sumy front thinly manned and dangerously vulnerable. Faced with this unfolding crisis, Russian command has attempted to reinforce the sector with a battalion from the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade tasked with stabilizing Kindrativka. Yet this solution may only compound the problem, as this Russian brigade suffered devastating losses during the Kursk battles and is now believed to be operating at only 35 to 45% of its nominal combat strength. Euromaidan Press reports, rather than deploying a cohesive, intact battalion, the likely reality is a composite force cobbled together from remnants of different units, a half-hearted measure that further undermines cohesion and interoperability. While these reinforcements may slow Ukrainian advances temporarily, they lack the depth and organization to mount a meaningful defense. Overall, in Sumy Oblast, the narrative has shifted entirely, and what began as a Ukrainian defensive effort has evolved into offensive momentum that is dismantling Russian positions piece by piece. For Russia, the situation is a bitter reversal, as it was just weeks ago that President Vladimir Putin himself issued aggressive statements about pushing into Sumy and even threatening the regional capital. Euromaidan Press says, without fresh reserves or a radical change in operational approach, Russia is poised to lose even more ground, and with it, any lingering credibility in its ability to threaten the city of Sumy again. Ukrainian defensive plans not only absorbed the initial Russian pressure, but have now turned the tide, enabling methodical counterattacks that are pushing Russian forces back across the sector.
The fire at the oil refinery in Novoshaktinsk, Rostov region of Russia, which occurred after the attack of Ukrainian drones on August 21, has been going on for 5 days now. Information and images about this were spread on local Telegram channels. According to information, the airmobile group of the MCHS and employees from the Krasnodar region, Kalmykia, Volgograd and Moscow regions were involved in fighting the fire. In total, they attracted 412 people and 150 pieces of equipment, including fire trains. Recall, fierce fire that started in Novoshaktinsk oil refinery in Russia's southern Rostov region has intensified, with the fire spilling over onto a new reservoir. The refinery was hit on the night of August 21 as Ukrainian drones hit Novoshaktinsk city in the region. As a result, an explosion and fire occurred on the territory of the plant. The plant was also attacked on December 24 last year, followed by a large fire. According to Ukrainian Telegram channels, the plant is protected by 2 anti-aircraft missile systems, Panzer S-1 and Tor. It should be noted that Russia is experiencing fuel shortage due to escalated Ukrainian long-range drone strikes. According to Moscow Times report, Ukrainian drone attacks have knocked out around 13% of the Russia's oil refining capacity since the beginning of August. Commenting on Russia's growing fuel shortage, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's chief of staff Andriy Yermak said this week that Ukraine's attacks on Russian energy infrastructure was well justified. In 2022, Russia did everything to deprive Ukraine of fuel. Now they suddenly face a shortage themselves. That's what happens when you attack Ukrainians, Yermak wrote on X.
Сейчас, походу, нас выгонят со стройки.